Today on the show, we're going to break down two very important Second Amendment legal cases with Washington gun law president William KIRK. This is The Loaded Mic, and I'm Dan Wass. Why do gun grabbers keep pushing for national registries and red flag laws? It's not about safety. It's about disarming you. One law, one database, one accusation at a time. This didn't start yesterday. Back in 1934, Franklin D. Roosevelt used the violence of the gangster era to pass the National Firearms Act, or otherwise known as the NFA, forcing citizens to register and pay taxes on certain guns. Well, that law wasn't about crime control. It was so the government would know who owned what. Nearly a century later, the same mindset drives every new so-called common sense gun law. New York has become the testing ground. Governor Kathy Hochul moved firearm background checks from the federal NICS system to the state police, and then added background checks for ammunition. Every box of ammo you buy now has your name and address attached. So the state police know exactly what you own and where you live because a state-run background check system no longer has the protection of anonymity that the federal system is supposed to have. So Hochul also mandated that police must confiscate firearms during any domestic violence call with no discretion and no due process. So combine that with red flag laws, and the state can seize your guns anytime they want. So make no mistake, nobody wants to be around maniacs with guns, but putting law-abiding citizens at risk of losing their rights is not an option, especially while courts are letting the maniacs and criminals out of jail. Deal with the bad guys and leave our gun rights alone. As of February 2025, New York courts had issued about 14,000 red flag orders. That's 14,000 citizens stripped of their rights, many without ever committing a crime. Now, this is no accident. The registries identify the guns. Red flag laws provide the vehicle for confiscation. Make no mistake, that is the end game. But there's one more devious component implemented by the gun grabbers to facilitate firearm confiscation. So we're going to talk about this and many other things with, he's not controversial online. He just says things that make people mad. John Chiara. And some people say he's mean, but we like to consider him pleasantly angry. Anthony Diso. And here to break down the legal aspects of these Constitution-violating gun laws, I'd also like to welcome our very special guest, attorney and Washington gun law president, William KIRK.
Thank you.
All right. So Bill, thanks so much for being here on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's a real honor. Thank you.
No problem. No problem. We've been talking recently. You and I just did your show recently.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great conversation.
No, it was great, man. It's gotten good reviews. So thanks for hopping on with us. It was a good time.
Yeah. No problem. And they, the people seem to like it. And we got into some of the deeper stuff. But today
we did. Yeah.
Today we wanted to talk about some of these legal aspects. There's one more aspect, Bill, and I want you to open this whole thing up. And I know there's the case that, how do you say it?
ALIAJ.
The ALIAJ case. And we talked about the red flag laws. We talked about the registry. And we're also talking about what else? There's another component.
Permit to purchase, permit to possess, which is the easiest way to get disarmed.
Well, and that's exactly what happened in this ALIAJ case.
Yeah.
Right? And this is a complicated case. So would you be able to kind of break it down?
Yeah, I can break it down for you. Yeah, this is a case that was brought to my attention by the folks over at the New Jersey Firearm Owners Syndicate, and then the Second Amendment Foundation has since hopped into it. The case is called ALIAJ versus Fort Lee Police Department. What this involves is Mr. ALIAJ is an Albanian immigrant, an American citizen, 38 years old, lawful, responsible gun owner, owns multiple firearms. Ever under New Jersey's crazy laws is still able to lawfully own firearms. His wife has recently moved to the United States and did not speak a lick of English, no English whatsoever. And she's only been listed in the complaint as LA, just by her initials. She was suffering from serious bouts of morning sickness, waking up every morning really, really sick. I wonder what could cause that. And so at some point, she went to like an urgent care walk-in medical clinic, and with no ability to speak English, was trying to tell the medical staff what was going on with her. And at one point made a statement, something to the effect of she felt so bad, she felt like she wanted to die. The medical staff under New Jersey's duty to report law immediately reported that to law enforcement and to some mental health hospitals. And LA was involuntarily committed that afternoon. That was on April 17th of 2025.
And let me ask you, was that because she said she wanted to die?
That's because she said she was feeling so bad that she felt like she wanted to die. Now, the ultimate diagnosis on LA is that she was going through an adjustment disorder. Of course, just having moved from Albania and not speaking a lick of English could probably explain that. The morning sickness was caused by this phenomena called pregnancy.
We've heard of it.
Yeah. So she was 7 weeks pregnant. There was no medical findings at all that she was suicidal, homicidal, posed a threat to herself or any other person. Those were all in the findings. But by the time she was discharged from the mental health institution, Mr. ALIAJ's firearms had already been confiscated by the Fort Lee Police Department.
Now, this gets more complicated, though, because there was no law allowing them to do that. As a matter of fact, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was policy or law, whatever you want to call it, in place to actually prevent that.
Yeah, so actually under New Jersey annotated statute 2A-62A-16.1.E, there is a law that says, hey, listen, if your firearms have been confiscated under some kind of a red flag provision due to the behavior of somebody else, then you can make a request in writing to the prosecuting attorney's office to return your firearms, so long as you can demonstrate that the prohibited person does not have access to firearms. Well, in Mr. ALIAJ's case, he had a safe. He was the only one that had a combination. The wife had zero interest in any of the firearms, had no knowledge of how to use any of them. So he made that request in writing to the to the Bergen County prosecuting attorney's office. So that's the prosecuting attorney that's handling this at this point. And they basically told him to go pound sand.
That's unbelievable. That is so infuriating.
That the statute, and again, this is where lawyers, we geek out on, because we think that words have meanings. And the statute says that the firearms shall be immediately returned.
Yeah.
So long as they make the request and then show that the person has no access to the firearms. Shall be immediately returned really is not subject to a lot of interpretations.
No, and
I think it's very clear.
Yeah, and it shall not be infringed. And then we also have shall issue. I mean, shall is used very specifically to indicate that there's no wiggle room here, right?
There's no wiggle room. Shall is the most dominant word in American law. Shall means you're going to do it every single time without exception, full stop.
Yeah, it's biblical. Go ahead. You had a question?
How did they know that she said that she felt like she wanted to die if she didn't speak English? What was the translation?
Apparently, what I got, and this is talking to people back in New Jersey, some folks with the New Jersey Firearm Owner Syndicate and stuff like that. She very broken English, and she was able to get a few words of English out. And again, that the medical staff took that upon themselves as, oh my gosh, she's suicidal. Let's get her involuntarily committed right away.
Oh my God, nurses.
Here's where this case gets even more infuriating is, so after Mr. ALIAJ sends the request to the Bergen County prosecutors, just like the law tells them to, they send him a correspondence back and basically say, yeah, we're not going to do that, but we might think about it if you give us your wife's medical records and we determine that she's not a threat to herself or others. So even though medical experts have all made that finding, mental health experts had all made that finding, and the statute mandates that ALIAJ gets his firearms back, the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office would not acquiesce to it until he waived her medical privileges.
I was going to say that. Isn't that what they call the HIPAA law?
Yeah, there's medical records are incredibly well guarded, and for good reasons.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You know, we're going to pick this up in a second. Let me get to one of our sponsors real quick. You want to know who's fighting for your gun rights? Gun Owners of America. Now, GOA is the no compromise gun rights group. So I urge you to become a member at gunowners.org. What have they done? Well, GOA secured a preliminary injunction against the ATF pistol brace rule. And GOA members submitted a record 85,000 plus comments opposing the ATF's universal registration check rule. They helped enact permitless carry in Nebraska and Florida, and GOA secured victories in California, Illinois, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. Plus, they won 2 legal victories against the ATF's zero tolerance policy, and GOA fought to overturn Joe Biden's ban on funding hunter education, shooting sports, and archery in schools. So with all the constant attacks on our Second Amendment, we often ask ourselves, well, what can I do about it? Well, this is what you can do. You can become a member at gunowners.org and help us save the Second Amendment. So we're here talking with William KIRK from Washington Gun Law, and we're talking about this case, ALIAJ versus Fort Lee Police Department, which is in New Jersey. Okay, so Bill, where does it go from here?
So at this point, the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office is telling ALIAJ, give us your wife's medical records, we'll think about it. And at this point, Mr. ALIAJ says, I probably ought to get a lawyer. So he does. And the lawyer, who obviously is abundantly familiar with New Jersey law, says, well, wait a second, there's a statute here that says he gets his firearms back. And so he contacts the prosecutor and says, you know, what's the deal? Give him his guns back. The prosecutor responds that they are unwilling to do so because they are concerned that L.A., ALIAJ's wife, has been diagnosed as both schizophrenic and bipolar.
Was that true?
No. Here's the thing. She was not diagnosed with any mental health ailment except for an adjustment disorder with depressive state. The words schizophrenia or bipolar never appeared in any of her medical records.
So are they making it up? What are they doing?
They're just making it up. They're just literally making it up. They're saying, listen, your wife's a nut job. She's dangerous. And until you prove to us otherwise, we're not going to let you have your firearms back. But then, Dan, it gets way worse than that. Because when the attorney starts pressing on the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office saying they have absolutely no statutory authority to do this, what does Bergen County decide to do? They decide that they're going to move to revoke ALIAJ's FPIC, or what they call in New Jersey a firearm owner's identification card, which means they are moving to suspend and revoke his Second Amendment rights based upon unsubstantiated behavioral problems with his wife.
Go ahead, Anthony.
But if it only saves one life,
it just saves one. God, you know, it's like Dan, you and I should think about doing a podcast about that. If it only saves one life.
Yeah.
Change my
mind.
Well,
I think we already kind of did.
That's right, we did.
We kind of did. As a matter of fact, where can people find that? Because can they go to YouTube? Right?
Yeah, they go over to my channel, Washington Gun Law. Dan and I did a really cool little live podcast about a week and a half ago. When the inspiration was actually one of Dan's videos that I thought to be absolutely fascinating. And so we just kind of talked about the sinister elements of the civilian disarmament movement and how it's cheating humanity.
Yeah, because it really is putting people in a bad position, you know. And like I said in my monologue, you know, we don't want freaking lunatics running around with guns, but handle the lunatics. Leave the gun rights alone. This whole concept is so crazy to me.
It's upside down. It's completely upside down.
And they want it that way because they really don't care about that. Look, Kathy Hochul in New York State, when she was originally appointed, the first thing she did was let 191 criminals out of Rikers Island. That right there should tell you enough about the Democrats. They don't care about keeping people safe. They do, however, want those gun-related deaths to rack up. So they love collecting all the gang-related violence and all that stuff so they can use it in their overall numbers, so they can push for more gun control laws. And you and I...
Well, yeah, and you want to know what the most leading part of gun violence statistics is that all the suicides are also included in that, and that makes up 75% of those numbers.
Oh, is it 75? Yeah, I knew it was high. I thought it was at least
75.
60.
And And so, every time we got a shooting, there's always this great debate of, well, was it the guns or was it the mental health of the shooter? Okay, now we obviously all know what the answer is. But listen, when we get into suicide numbers, I know we're diverging here for a second, but there's no question that there was a mental health issue there, is there?
Yeah. Right,
Person committed suicide. People of sound mind do not take their own lives.
Right.
Yet all of those numbers get included into the statistics.
You have to be really messed up to do that, because our natural instinct is to preserve our life. We will, you watch people drowning or in some sort of danger. The fight to save our own life is it's almost, more than human.
It's the most fundamental and quintessential human right there is, the right of self-preservation.
Yeah.
It is genetically ingrained into all human beings.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. And just the inherent will to save our own lives goes beyond anything else. So to make your point, if you're willing to actually give all that up and actually take your own life, then there's some mental stuff going on there. But they use those numbers, 75%, like you said, of the gun-related deaths. And, of course, they call it gun violence because, remember, Bill, we want to make sure that we anthropomorphize this stuff.
That's right. Got to anthropomorphize the inanimate object and attach human emotion to it. That's right.
Right. So they'll use the suicides. And then they love to leave in the gang-related stuff. So if you take out the gang-related, I forget what it was. You're down to about, You're down to about 11 to 14,000 gun-related deaths after you take out the suicides, and it's a very small amount. I can't remember the exact
if you took
number.
out what just happened in Chicago every weekend, you'd cut the numbers in half.
Yeah.
Right? And if you don't believe me, just pick up the Chicago Tribune every Monday, because I do it, and take a look at how many people they slaughtered in Chicago over the weekend, because it's always like 75 shot, 14 to 16 dead. Of course, everyone who's dead is some poor 7-year-old kid that was 3 blocks down the road that got picked off by a stray bullet.
Yep. Anthony, anything for Bill?
Jersey. Jersey just elected that idiot who put a bag over her head during COVID. I just see that video. I'm just like, are you people crazy? Why would you elect that weirdo as your governor?
Yeah.
She's out there.
She's out there.
Well, there's America's largest city just elected a communist, so
that's
it seems to be the in thing right now.
We talked about that on the show. We're going to just
and again, I'm just listening to Kilmeade this morning talking about how, he won like barely 50% of the vote. So it's not like there's some giant mandate, you know what I mean? And he had all kinds of people voting for him that probably never voted before, right?
It was all dumb liberal white women. Did you see the one woman screaming, Sierra law's coming.
Yeah.
It's great. You don't even know what the hell it is, stupid. These people they should not be able to vote.
Well, the irony of it all is the Democrats want 16-year-olds to vote because they know.
Oh, God, they're dumber than the 18-year-olds.
Yeah, well, they know that they can indoctrinate them in schools and get them to.
They already have. Look what we got.
Yeah.
Everyone between 18 and 29 or morons that voted. Oh, free this.
Well,
free
I love the idea of the free buses. Right?
Free buses.
So basically, the buses now, Bill, are going to be homeless shelters.
Homeless shelters.
Oh, nice. A little bit like your subway system too. That's pretty awesome.
Exactly.
So
we looked up the numbers for MTA annual budget, and it's almost $20 billion. But that's what $8 billion subsidy from New York State because it doesn't make any money.
Well, hopefully,
so free buses isn't gonna work, man, dummy. It's not going to work.
Well, I think the interesting thing out there is I didn't realize this, but the mayor of New York does not have nearly as much power when it comes to taxing the citizens of New York City. And so that actually requires cooperation from Albany. Yeah. And I know Governor Hochul has claimed that she's not going to support that, but she was also very happy to campaign with him. So that's going to be really, really interesting. And I have a feeling that the citizens of New York will be betrayed by both their governor as well.
Well, hopefully Elise Stefanik can get in there. According to what I'm hearing, she is running neck and neck in the polls with Hochul. So we'll see. And Elise is great. I've actually met her a few times, and She's what New York needs. I'm sorry, what were you saying, Anthony?
No, it's just, Well, yeah, I watched her. She did release it today, but then you got the dumb liberals up here. Oh, she's dirty. She doesn't do town halls. What's that have to do with anything?
She's dirty.
Yeah.
Dirty.
Like, what's that mean?
Well, she's crooked.
Oh, crooked.
She's Trump's girl. She doesn't do anything
That's
with Trump's.
what Hochul said
what are you
this
talking
morning,
about?
or somebody that she'll just go along with whatever Trump says, no matter what, this and that. And I'm like,
Says the woman who does everything wrong, Hochul.
Oh God.
Anthony loves Kathy Hochul.
Yeah.
Yeah, we call it.
Well, Kathy Hochul's been good to the channel. She gives Washington gun law a lot of material to talk about with some of the crazy gun laws that they come up with in New York. So I'll thank her for that. But
that's
the one thing.
How does she ignore?
You know, Dan, the one thing I know that you were talking about gun registries, and there are gun registries out there. Anyone who tells you that they don't exist is full of it. But here's the thing that I want people to understand with ALIAJ, and the danger is that when you have these permit to purchase, permit to possess schemes in your state, so you have to go get a hall pass from government before you can go exercise a right. You take a look at how the revocation proceedings on a lot of these things, it's a pretty easy administrative process to do, which means they don't necessarily need a gun registry. They got a list of everyone who's applied for one of those ID cards. They presumably have firearms. There's no other reason to get an ID card. You yank that then leads to an automatic confiscation of all firearms and ammunition.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then not only that, but even if you do just have a rifle or a shotgun that you don't register or you don't need a permit for in some of these states, Kathy Hochul went and she started an ammunition background check.
Right.
So you can track the ammo, because of course if you're buying ammo, you likely have a gun. And then everyone said, okay, fine. We'll go to Vermont. We'll go to Connecticut. We'll go to Massachusetts, wherever we need to go to get our ammo. So then she started, and this never happened, but she tried, and Bill, you probably know more about this than I do. She tried to pass a law in New York State that would sue out-of-state gun shops for selling ammunition to New York residents. Do you know anything about that?
I don't know anything about it, but it's laughable because I don't understand what her standing would be whatsoever for a company outside the state of New York to conduct open commerce in the manner they wish with a lawful, responsible customer. So she wouldn't even have any standing. She would have no legal grounds. It would be a complete waste of time. Doesn't mean that the state of New York wouldn't try to do it anyways. Take a look at what California sues on all the time.
Well, and here's my thought on that, if we go into the psychology of it a little bit, because I always ask myself, well, what are they getting out of this? like you said, if they don't have the legal standing, what could she be getting out of this? Well, imagine yourself as a gun shop owner in Vermont, and you hear about this on the news. It makes national news, and you're not sure if it's going to happen, if she can actually arrest you or have you sued or whatever. But a New York guy comes in and he wants to buy some ammo. And as soon as they look at your license or whatever, they find out you're from New York. Are they going to take the risk? They might just say, you know what?
And I just talked to a guy last week who did the same thing, traveled out of Illinois and into Indiana to buy ammo. First question the guy asked him is like, you don't happen to be from Illinois, are you? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, well, then we're not selling to you.
And
it was just a store policy that they just don't want to deal with the crap in Illinois.
Right, exactly. So I think that was Hochul's intent, right?
Yeah. Well, and what happened out here in Washington State when we passed our assault weapon ban is they made the importation of parts and all of this other stuff plausibly illegal and stuff like that. And so you had a lot of companies that were like, okay, we're not going to ship triggers. We're not going to ship optics. We're not going to ship handguards, upper receivers, any of that to the state of Washington anymore. And it took me several months of calling manufacturers on behalf of FFLs and walking them through the law saying, no, trust me, you can do this. I'm not going to give you advice to do something illegal, before we finally started getting replacement parts and other components for semi-automatic rifles shipped back into the state of Washington. And there's still some companies that will not. Brownells, I know, if you try to do a private order on something that's susceptible or they think is susceptible, Brownells won't ship to Washington State.
For instance, I looked at the Byrna website yesterday, and they won't ship to New York or California or a couple other states. And I know Adam Carolla was saying last week that you can't like get a gas stove or something shipped to California. You got to get it shipped to Nevada and go pick it up because they won't ship all kinds of things, Krusty.
But
Washington State's going to be on that list soon too.
Wow.
They're Byrna dealers in New York. So you can buy those Byrna guns.
Right, but they can't ship them. You can't buy it online and have them ship it to New York.
Wow. Okay.
Ship it to the I don't know how that works. That's interesting.
I've actually
see, and here's what happens if I'm like corporate counsel for Byrna, and I'm sitting there going, well, let's see, how many of these items are we selling in this state? Well, we're only selling X, and the risk we're assuming is Y, and Y is far greater than X. It's not worth it, and I tell them not to do it.
Right.
And that's part of it. So where they can't actually get legislation in place, they use propaganda and societal tactics.
The two biggest methods of civilian disarmament that don't get talked about enough, it's not legislation. It's typically chronology, time, and money. See what you do, like you did in California. Oh yeah, you can get a concealed carry license. Sure, it's going to take about 18 months. It's going to be about $1,500 in training and about another $1,500 in licensing fees and application fees. And then, of course, it's an 18-month process with a private interview and all this other crap. And people just go, the hell with it. I don't want to. It's not worth it to me. And so they wear people out of their Second Amendment rights that way as well.
Yeah. Oh God, so infuriating. Bill, before we go to break, can you bring us to the end of this ALIAJ?
Yeah. So like I said, I talked to some folks out in New Jersey yesterday because I knew you and I, Dan, were going to be talking about it. So lawsuit was filed on November 3rd. Now, I want everyone to realize that Mr. ALIAJ was disarmed on April 17th of this year. Suit was filed on November 3rd. He still does not have any of his firearms. The suit was filed because the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office kept doubling and tripling down on this whole, well, let us take a peek at her medical records and we'll think about it. And the attorney, Mr. ALIAJ's attorney, very wisely said, the hell with it. No, we'll just see you in court. So suit is filed. And I'm going to be carefully watching it. My good friend Joe Laporto out there with the New Jersey Firearm Owners Syndicate is going to be keeping me posted on that. So I'll keep my viewers updated on the channel about what happens with that. It's an infuriating case.
Oh, God. It pisses me off. Anything else before we go to break, you guys? All right. We're going to take a short break. And then we're going to come back with another case that Bill is going to walk us through. Going to be very interesting. Stick around.
The Cali Key removes your AR from the definition of an assault weapon. It lets you keep your rifle with all its features, avoid registration hassles, and transport in hostile jurisdictions. The Cali Key also lets you hunt in jurisdictions like Pennsylvania and enhances long-range precision shooting. Cali Key's expert legal opinions empower informed decisions, and sales help grassroots Second Amendment organizations. Cali Key is your tool to keep and equip your AR, empower yourself, and defend your civil rights.
Our founding fathers saw them coming over 200 years away. That's why they wrote the Second Amendment. Join us in the fight to preserve your gun rights and stop unconstitutional gun control. Gun Owners of America is the country's only no-compromise gun rights organization. Not only do we inform and educate, but we bring the fight to court and win. Your God-given right to keep and bear arms is our top priority. Become a member today and help us take back America. Join us at gunowners.org.
All right, we're back with William KIRK from Washington Gun Law, and we're talking about some cases that affect everybody, whether or not you're in that state or not, because this stuff will, it affects a lot of people for a lot of different reasons across the country. But the one thing I wanted to talk about here, and Bill, you and I talked about this case last night. Now, I'm not a pot smoker. I could care about smoking pot. I could care less. I never actually liked it. But there are some people who use cannabis for medicinal purposes and even for recreational purposes, and that's okay. However, when the government decides that they want to take away your Second Amendment right because of that, it seems to be a somewhat of a conflict. So I know there are two cases here. I don't know a heck of a lot about these two cases, so I'm hoping that you'll school us up. United States versus Hamani and Harris versus United States. So go ahead, but you just run.
So here's why, and I get that probably a lot of people viewing this aren't pot smokers, and that's fine, to each their own. Okay. But here's the to set up the importance of this issue. There are 24 states in the United States right now that have legalized cannabis for recreational purposes. I live in one of them. And despite the fact that my state has all sorts of problems, none of them have been created by the legalized cannabis industry. So you got 24 legal recreational states. You got 14 more states that authorize medicinal use of cannabis. So that's 38 states. However, under 18 United States Code Section 922G3, if you are even an occasional user of an illegal controlled substance as defined by federal law, you are disqualified from possessing a firearm. Which means every person that's ever walked into a gun store, whether they were a medicinal marijuana user or just a casual pot smoker here or there, or heck, they could be an everyday pot smoker for whatever, they had to answer a question on the 4473 where they had the Hobson's choice of, do I answer honestly and terminate the sale, or do I lie and get the sale approved? And so this is an issue that's really needed to be decided for quite some time, because traditionally we have a history in this country of disarming individuals while they are actually under the influence of a substance. And I don't think any lawful and responsible gun owner is going to have a problem with that. You should not be in possession or handling firearms when you're under the influence of any type of controlled substance. But just because a person wants to go home on a Friday night and smoke a joint and listen to music all Friday night, why do they then have to be disarmed the other 6 days of the week? It's a big problem. Worse yet is the people who are having to make this choice of, do I follow my doctor's orders and take care of my health, or do I defend my life? And no American should have to make that choice. So the need to get a case before the United States Supreme Court has always been there. Unfortunately, we had like a dozen cases all sitting on the front door of the United States Supreme Court, and the Department of Justice decides to weigh in on one of those cases and say, oh yeah, that's the case right there that you should take, which shockingly, the Supreme Court then takes that case, which is United States versus Hamani. The problem is that much like the Rahimi case, where we have a horrible set of facts and bad facts lead to bad laws, we have arguably even a worse set of facts with Hamani. Hamani has been on the FBI watch list to ties to terrorist organizations. He is a known drug dealer. He deals in drugs far more dangerous than cannabis, and actually attended General Soleimani's funeral back in Iran. So this is not the most sympathetic person in the world, and the facts surrounding Hamani make this case virtually impossible to really get a fair resolution. And for that reason, there's another case out there called Harris, United States versus Harris, where Mr. Harris, who is a volunteer at a Christian nonprofit organization and likes to smoke weed a couple of times a week, disclosed that to law enforcement during an interview and was ultimately arrested, convicted, and jailed under 18 United States Code Section 922G3. It is the perfect vehicle, though, by which the Supreme Court should decide that case, because I think Mr. Harris is indicative of a large majority of recreational and or medicinal cannabis users in this country. Can I stop you for
1 second, Bill?
Yeah, of course.
So why exactly was Harris, what was the reason for his arrest? Was it because he was in possession?
It wasn't an arrest. He was actually in there doing an interview with law enforcement about something completely unrelated, and during the course of the conversation, it came up that he was both a firearms owner and a cannabis user, and they contacted the feds. The feds turned around and came in and prosecuted him for it. No criminal history whatsoever.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Do they do that with drunks as well? Like,
right.
No, that's the thing. Here's the thing. And I spent back earlier in my career as a defense attorney, I spent a lot of time dealing with impaired drivers and things like that. And people are impaired on all sorts of substances. The pill popper, the one that's basically a walking pharmacy, since all of those drugs are typically prescribed, they're not prohibited by federal law at all. The town drunkard, as long as he can get sober enough to get into the gun store and complete the paperwork, he's going to be able to walk away with a firearm. But God forbid, the occasional pot smoker, no, we need to disarm those people.
Okay, so violent pot smokers out there.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
so let's go deeper on this then. What do we think the underlying intent for this is? Because they're not doing it with people who drink alcohol, not doing it with, like you said, the pill poppers. Why are they taking advantage of this?
I think it's just remnants of the failed war on drugs. to be honest with you. I think the easiest solution to at least the cannabis issue, I'm not going to get into some of the other drugs. I'm talking only about cannabis because there is actual medicinal purposes for cannabis. And then there's a ton of medical literature to support that. I don't think you could say the same thing about methamphetamine. But the easiest solution is just, hey, take it off of Schedule 1, drop it down to a Schedule 3. States could then choose to legalize it if they so desired. They don't have to. But at that point, it comes out of the realm of where 18 United States Code 922 would have effect on it.
It sounds to me like it's just an excuse to limit another number of people from possessing firearms, because they can't go back and do it with alcohol and say, okay, well, now we're going to implement this thing that if you drink, you can't own guns. But since legalizing pot, correct me if I'm wrong, but since legalizing pot is relatively new, they can attach these, addendums, I guess, to it, and preventing people from owning guns is something they think they can get away with, I think.
Well, listen, if you really want to go back and take a look at the history of all forms of gun control in this country, they're all formulated out of one concept. What is that? It's racism.
Oh,
every single,
that's how it started, yeah.
Every single piece of gun control legislation, you can trace it back to racist origins. So, was cannabis more popular in the African-American community before it became more widespread popular? Yes, it was. Does that probably play a role in it? Probably does.
Wow, I didn't think about that. Yeah, could be.
Yeah. But unfortunately, I think the fix is in on this one. And listen, if the United States Department of Justice, the most pro-2A DOJ ever, decides that this is an issue they want to dig their heels in on and they want to vigorously defend this law, that's a decision they have the right to make. I just would like to see a level playing field. This is like trying to, again, advance the Second Amendment through people like Rahimi, trying to advance or preserve the Second Amendment through people like Hamani. We're not going to prevail doing it that way. And that's why the Harris case is so important that the Supreme Court takes that. They could take it and consolidate it onto the same argument date with Hamani.
Well, let me get to one of our sponsors real quick, and we're going to get right back on this. This device right here, the Cali Key, removes your AR from the definition of so-called assault weapon. Did you know that when so-called assault weapon ban lists are created, they exclude manually operated bolt-action firearms? So just by dropping the Cali Key into your direct impingement AR in place of your semi-automatic BCG, you'll have a bolt-action rifle that falls outside the definition of an assault weapon. You don't need to do anything else. So give the Cali Key a look, because with it, you could retain all your rifle's features, avoid registration complications, revive your black rifle sales if you're an FFL, regain the ability to do private party transfers, legally transport across hostile jurisdictions, hunt with your AR in areas like Pennsylvania, and enhance long-range precision and quiet or suppressed shooting. Cali Key has state-specific expert attorney opinions on its website and supports grassroots Second Amendment organizations with its sales. Cali Key's mission is to empower customers and claw back our civil liberties. So go to CaliKey.com and use the discount code LOADED. All right. So, Bill, back to the Harris versus United States. Where is this now? What's going to happen with it? And
so Hamani has been accepted. The United States Supreme Court has already accepted that for oral argument. An oral argument date has not yet been set. Harris is on what we call conference. So they're sitting on the front door, the front porch of the Supreme Court. They've asked permission to come in, and the Supreme Court is going to conference on that case next Friday, 1 week from today. And whether they give an answer on that conference or gets kicked to another conference, that remains to be seen. But it is awaiting either a thumbs up or a thumbs down from the United States Supreme Court.
So when let's say they give it the thumbs up, that means that then they can start proceedings in the Supreme Court?
What it basically means is that the Supreme Court at that point has accepted it for oral argument. They will give them an oral argument date. They will give them a briefing schedule, both sides. Petitioners file first, respondents file second, and away we go. We are going full blast. And so there is, my video out this morning actually talks about 26 Second Amendment cases that are on conference either next Friday or Friday the 21st. So we got a couple of weeks coming up in the Supreme Court that are going to be critical on many large issues that need to be resolved by the Supreme Court.
Okay, so just to clarify, if you want to see Bill's video, which I hope you do, it was November 7th would be the day to go back and look over on YouTube.
Yeah, it'll be the November morning. Yeah, it's November 7th.
We don't know
video,
exactly when people are going to be watching this show, so I want to make sure they get to see your video. Okay, so let's say the Supreme Court makes a determination that it's unconstitutional to deprive someone of their Second Amendment rights just because they're using cannabis. Does that mean that states will abide by that Supreme Court ruling? Because we see a lot of times they just don't, like New York.
Yeah. So this is a very disturbing trend that has developed in the last few years, but it's not the first time this has happened in the United States. And that is that, well, in your home state, for example, New York, the Concealed Carry Improvement Act. What was that? That was the Bruin Response Bill. That's literally what it was called.
They renamed everything.
Yeah. So literally you have courts that are like, oh, the Supreme Court said that. Okay, well, we're going to pass laws to figure out a workaround for it. Now, the last time we saw that in the history of the United States was following the Civil Rights Movement, because there were some states in the South that weren't real happy about the results of the Civil Rights Movement. And so they ultimately ended up basically writing laws to ignore it. And they had to be drugged back into court over and over and over. And we're beginning to see this. Senate Bill 2 in California, the Concealed Carry Improvement Act in New York are two examples of Bruin response bills. So, yeah, if you were to get a positive ruling out of Harris or Hamani, could you see certain states that are hell-bent on civilian disarmament doubling down and writing their own laws and saying, well, take us to court and see how that works? Oh, absolutely. We've already seen states do that, and they know that it takes 3 to 5 years to get one of these cases completely resolved anyway, so they'll just, subject the citizenry to the misery until it's resolved.
Well, Bruin took 7 years, I think. Started in 15. I don't think we had a decision until 22. And
listen, there's a case right now that's going to be conferenced November 21st. I call it the granddaddy of them all. It's Duncan v. Bonta. It is a challenge to California's magazine ban. That case was filed in 2017.
Wow.
What's that about? What's the magazine ban? Oh, the magazine.
Yeah, high capacity magazine ban.
You Playboy or something.
The Playboy, yeah.
What's wrong?
Playboy's not even worth banning anymore, man. Come on.
I haven't even seen one.
I haven't.
They don't even make that. I don't even think Playboy's even in.
But do they still have a print magazine?
I don't think so.
Let's look at Anthony.
I don't know. I know that they went away from the big attraction in Playboy a few years ago, and that may have been the final death nail to that publication.
Did they actually stop nudity?
Yeah, yeah.
Really?
There's internet killed it.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's true. The internet
you can go on the internet and beat your bunny to whatever you want.
Tell us about this. Yeah, tell us more.
Well, I'm just saying.
Oh, wiener into a muffin tray.
Like I said, you don't need books anymore.
Anyway,
old Hef died, and there it goes.
Yeah, once Hef died,
his son took over and
pajamas didn't fit.
Sold the house and everything. It's all gone.
Damn. Where were we?
I don't know.
We got
staining everything.
We were about to get on Zillow and check the price of the Playboy Mansion. That's what we were about to do. Yeah.
How much is that house?
Well,
if the walls could talk at a place like that, think about that.
I wouldn't go in there.
Unless the walls are all saying, "Wash me, wash me."
Yeah, stick to the floor.
Clorox, the black light in that place.
All right. This is awful.
See, you let it get out of control. Who's in charge here? Come on.
Nobody's in charge.
We go off the rails every once in a while, but that's why people like us. So Bruin. We had the Bruin case in New York State. Basically shut down a lot of New York's gun restrictions. But then 8 days after the Bruin decision, Kathy Hochul already had the Concealed Carry Improvement Act ready to go. But it was the existing New York State laws plus, I mean, everything from sensitive locations to social media forfeiture and Go ahead, Bill. If you can talk.
Well, so listen, gun laws do one of three things. Okay, they ban either people, places, or things. That's all gun laws do. And so when that pesky little Bruin decision came down and told states like New York, no, you're actually going to have to give people concealed carry licenses because the only reason they need to demonstrate to you is they want it. And so now she's like, crap, I'm going to have to give all these people carry licenses.
Sorry to interrupt. That's the difference between shall and may.
And may. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, may, like I got a sister who lives in Los Angeles all by herself in Westwood. Used to be a nice neighborhood. Now it's not. And, you know, when she was originally applying for a California concealed carry license, she had to demonstrate a unique need to have it. That's a may issue. A shall issue is, hey, are you otherwise qualified to lawfully allowed to possess a firearm? If so, then yeah, we're going to issue you a concealed carry license. Unfortunately, New York got forced into that position by the Bruin holding. So what does Hochul and everyone in Albany do? They were like, well, if we're going to have to give licenses to all these people, what we need to do is just create large swaths of the state where the licensing status is irrelevant. You just can't carry a firearm anywhere in these places. Right. New York calls them sensitive places. We call them gun-free zones here in Washington. It's all the same thing. They're killing fields is what they are. Because you don't have to take my word for this. Dr. John Lott, Crime Prevention Research Center, will tell you that since 1980, 86% of all mass shootings have occurred inside a gun-free zone. Since 2000, 90% of them have occurred inside a gun-free zone.
Yep. Thanks, Joe.
So they do make our communities more dangerous. And shockingly, and maybe you guys have experienced this as well in New York, but criminals don't seem to follow the signs.
Really?
They don't seem to read them and obey them. Is that your experience in New York as well?
No. I thought the sign that says no guns allowed was for the criminals.
It is. It tells them they can go there and do whatever they want.
But according to a liberal, it makes it safer. So when she puts
it makes it safer.
That force field comes around and nobody. You walk into school, you're like, what is this thing? I can't get in.
Just like it's made our schools safer, hasn't it?
Oh, he sure has.
Well, and Anthony just mentioned a little briefly about that. We talk a lot about the Gun-Free School Zones Act that was part of the Crime Control Act that Joe Biden introduced in 1990. And ever since then, school killings have gone up.
Way up.
Imagine that.
Way up, yeah.
Because they like to use children as pawns. Yeah. How do you get people's feelings going?
Here's the thing that goes to show you just how disingenuous we are as a country when it comes to protecting our youth. Okay, so every time we got a school shooting, two sides of the argument come out. There's the anti-gunners who are like, it's the guns. And then there's people in our sphere that are like, no, it's mental health. Okay, let's just assume an arguendo that both sides are correct for the sake of this hypothetical. Okay, if it's the guns and we got to go round them all up, how many hundreds of years is it going to take for us to get the guns off the street if we can ever do it? All right,
it's impossible.
If it's the mental health, how many years are we away from being able to effectively treat that, predict it, and actually, kind of alleviate that type of behavior ahead of time? God only knows, hundreds of years. Yeah. So what do we do about the kids in the meantime? Well, I've always felt that we should use the September 12th model. And the September 12th model was the model that airports introduced the day after September 11th, where we said, we're never going to let another plane be hijacked in this country again. We created secure points of egress and ingress. We screened everybody, and we upped our security. And why schools have not gone to that model. And I'm not talking about you need armed security and uniforms with automatic weapons running around the school. I'm talking about, plain clothes, concealed carrying individuals, well-trained, specific points of ingress and egress and things like that. That's the way we have to protect our schools. And why no one has ever thought of the September 12th model for our schools makes me question, are they really our most valuable asset or not? Because if they are, we would be protecting them like they are.
Right. Fortify the target, right?
Yes.
Well, liberals don't want that, though. Right. They don't want that.
They don't. I think that they
don't care if you're dressed in a clown suit and conceal a gun and your kids are happy around you. They don't care.
Like I said, they use those killings.
They use those killings as a pawn to push more gun laws.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's exactly what they do.
Yeah.
And it's true. Up here, Bill, in Saratoga Springs, New York, we had two armed security guards at the schools. It was I think one was a high school, one may have been a middle school, whatever. There were 2. And this nut job school board, liberals, one of them was actually a supporter of BLM. They voted, after years of having these security guards and having no issues at all, they voted against, they wanted to remove them. A bunch of us were going to the meetings and we're protesting it and all this stuff, and we're speaking out. And so it tells you that they don't really care about the kids.
Nope.
They care more about
getting their agenda across.
The political agenda. Right. And I believe, and I've been in this conversation long enough to really believe this is true, that they actually want more gun-related deaths, because with more gun-related deaths, the liberals, the Democrats, the gun grabbers can justify more gun restrictions.
Yes.
Well, look at most of the shooters are crazy trans kids anyway.
Yeah.
But they don't. They tell
listen. If gun laws truly saved lives, then California, Illinois, and New York would be the 3 safest states in the country, wouldn't they?
We said this the other night. We'd be living in paradise, wouldn't
Detroit,
we?
Baltimore.
Total nirvana. Yeah, right?
Nirvana.
Just Shangri-La. That's what it would be like, right? Because your gun laws have just made everything, it's like a utopia.
Exactly.
But every year, your state legislature will go back into session, and come up with more gun laws because, well, we just haven't quite figured out the right combination of gun laws yet. So let's add a couple more to the mix, and we'll have it figured out one of these years.
It's like the communist argument. Well, nobody's really done it right. We got to make it a little bit more complete here, and then
New York's gonna figure it out.
But think about this, guys. Think about how much agenda is being driven at state capitals because of this, and B, how many people are getting rich off civilian disarmament? There's some people getting rich off of it,
Let's talk about that a little bit. What's the path to getting rich off of disarmament?
Well, listen, you get involved with the groups like Bloomberg or something like that. You become get it politically involved. Once you're politically involved, you got power. With power, you get to enrich yourself. I mean, hell, one day you might become the Speaker of the House and make $500 million in the stock market. I mean, you never know what you can do with a little bit of power, right? But it's almost like these pharmaceutical companies, and I don't know whether this is true or not, but you hear people say all the time, like, do the pharmaceutical companies really want to cure cancer? Because they would lose a lot of money if we cured cancer. Well, do the civilian disarmament folks really, really want to end gun violence or violence in general? Do they?
It was pretty funny. I was listening to Adam Carolla last week, and he had Pete Buttigieg on. No, it was the All In podcast. They had Pete Buttigieg.
Mr. Butt Plug?
Yeah, and Pete was saying, well, and he was going along, and he was pretty well spoken, and then he said, well, things like gun violence and this and that, and I'm like, boy.
There he goes.
Stepped in it now.
There's the dummy that comes out of his butt plug.
As soon as I hear that word, as soon as I hear that term gun violence, I know they're on the wrong side of the conversation. As soon as I hear assault weapon, like Bill, you and I talked about this too. And, it's such a...
Boy, the biggest one is gun control.
Gun control, yeah. We talk,
right?
Yeah,
how do you control it? It's an inanimate object. Nobody needs to control it.
Yeah.
It's a good call point. It what it is. It's civilian disarmament. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point.
Infringements of the rights of law-abiding citizens.
I say that to my liberal girl. I go, I'm going to put my gun on the coffee table, and now Spike's not going to hurt you.
Right.
It's just going to sit there.
Got a name for it.
It's going to chill out.
Got a name,
and that's it. It's not. And then people walk through and they're like, I'm like, it's not going to hurt you until you pick it up.
But you need to teach the dogs to pick it up and chase somebody else around.
Yeah, that's what I need to do, John.
But there's such a narrative around.
But they brainwashed into believing the stupid crap.
It wasn't this way decades ago.
Well, listen, guys, that narrative is spilling into legal arguments. I'll give you an example. There is a assault weapon ban case sitting before the United States Supreme Court right now called Viramontes versus Cook County, where Chicago sits. The response brief from the Cook County Prosecuting Attorney's Office literally says the existence of a firearm in a home, and especially an assault weapon, significantly increases the likelihood that the person is going to commit a violent act. So they literally argued that with a straight face.
You know what? And that's the point. You keep saying the same things to the public over and over and over for years, it starts to actually become fact. Well, not really fact, but people believe it's true.
Well, it's like DWI. You go out and you kill somebody with your car drinking and driving. Who are they blaming? You?
Right.
Are they blaming the alcohol? No. Are they blaming the car you're behind the wheel? No. Same thing as, you're fat.
Well, Anthony's right. Listen, I spent a big chunk of my career, unfortunately, early on doing impaired driving cases. And yeah, every year I'd have a couple cases where a drunk got in a car, caused a horrific accident, and either maimed or killed people. And the families of the victims would come into court and they would be screaming bloody murder. And there is no sentence that driver could give that was going to be enough. But you know what? No one ever came into court and screamed about the car or the booze.
Right.
They only screamed about the idiot that was behind the steering wheel.
My son. They never screamed at.
Or Jack Daniels. Jack Daniels killed my kid. No, he didn't.
Exactly.
The idiot got behind the wheel did.
But the government got that narrative of the gun violence. Gun violence.
Gun violence.
My gun went out last night and killed somebody on his own.
Gun violence.
Gun violence. But not car violence and not food, not fork violence.
I think they're confused about the whole, they keep saying, well, but guns are designed to shoot people. I go, yeah, but for legal gun owners, that means you can defend yourself. You're not going out and shooting people. So it's a really false.
I didn't get a concealed carry because I want to go and kill somebody.
Real quick. Real quick, 2.5 million, up to 2.5 million defensive gun uses per year means people saving their own lives because they're armed. 1.2 million reported violent acts occur. 1.2 million reported acts, but 2.5 million have been stopped. That's 2/3 of the violent acts committed in America are stopped by good guys with guns. Guns are used to save lives far more often.
Well, I saw a story the other night from Oklahoma. 11-year-old girl was home. Her father had just left, and I guess 2 illegals came up to the house and tried to break in. She blew them away with a Mossberg 500.
I heard about that. Yeah.
She's 11 years old, but she was a skeet shooter champion.
Yeah.
Smoked both of them.
Well, they didn't know
They
that.
picked the wrong house.
And
They picked the wrong house.
That's what I'm saying. That's what people need to learn. Train your kids to use a gun correctly and what it's for. She knew how to use it. She went upstairs and got it and smoked both the idiots, and now we don't have to worry about them.
Yeah. There you go.
And she was 11 years old. Just imagine if that poor kid didn't have a gun.
Oh, God.
They would have brutally raped her and killed her.
Yeah.
They waited for her dad to leave.
Well, and Dan, you brought up those statistics, and here's the thing that you would probably want to inquire on is how does something even get into the statistics? Does it require that the firearm actually be discharged to end up in the statistics? Because sometimes that's the criteria. There are thousands of incidents every day where the presence merely displaying or brandishing a firearm ends a potential violent confrontation right then and there. Yeah. No round is discharged, and oftentimes nobody makes a 911 call to end up in the records. Right. So there probably is hundreds of thousands of more of those incidents that are just unreported annually.
Well, as our friend John Lott said, and I hope I'm getting this number right, but I'm pretty sure it was about 95% of those defensive gun uses, not even a shot was fired. It was just the mere presence of the gun.
That's right.
So yeah,
right.
That was great.
And oh, by the way, for the states that want to argue that the test is in common use for self-defense, I want you to understand that if you display a firearm that happens to have a 17-round magazine and the perpetrator takes off and you didn't have to fire a shot, you have still used a 17-round magazine in your defense.
Now you're pissing me off. That is infuriating.
But it's true.
I know.
Right?
I know. Bill, thanks so much for your help and your advice and your knowledge. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. This was fun.
Well, tell people where they can find you. And
So Washington Gun Law. Find me on YouTube. Now, I know the title's Washington Gun Law, but Dan will testify to this. I cover a lot more than just Washington State. We'll cover everything on a national level. I have good connections in a lot of states that are struggling through civilian disarmament as well. I'm on X at Gun Washington, Instagram, Facebook, all of that. And I appreciate you, and I can't wait to get Dan back on because we had a fantastic Geek Out session last time we did a live thing together.
Yeah, we had a great time, so let's do it again. Let's make this a regular thing. Bill, thanks so much, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching The Loaded Mic on Rumble. and YouTube, and you can check us out on practically every podcast platform out there. We're also on the Spreely Network at Spreely.com. And my name is Dan Wass, and just remember, the Second Amendment is not a privilege. It's your right.